Hi, I'm Dr. Charlene Walters, author, business and branding mentor, trainer, as well as your host for Launch, a business talk show for anyone who wants to launch their business, their career, or their life. Hi everyone, welcome to Launch. Today we have an amazing guest, Cristi Bundukumara. She is a psychiatric wellness practitioner. She is an entrepreneur. She's an author. She's a mom. She's so many great things. Welcome to the show, Cristi.
Thank you, Charlene. I'm so excited to be here.
I am super excited to have you. Can you tell our audience a little bit about your background?
Oh, how much time are you going to give me? No, I'm just kidding.
Lots and lots of time.
So I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner with over 20 years of clinical experience. And I created the Mentally Strong method. So, I definitely have the credentials for this psychiatric, wellness practitioner. But my real experience comes from my life and the things that I've had to overcome and just really work through and decide to be happy through all of those things. And now I'm turning that into, making a profit. And I believe that we can help people and make money at the same time, that this is a good thing. And I'm learning how to be an entrepreneur, which I didn't know was in my plan for life, but because as these things played out, I adopted 5 kids. I lost a son in a drowning accident. My family was diagnosed with a aggressive neurodegenerative condition. I lost my son in 2016. And then I knew when he passed that I had to use everything that I had learned about myself and about how to be mentally strong and share it with other people. And so then I became an entrepreneur.
Oh my goodness. You have been through a lot, and it's great that, you're working to get the message out and to also make money at the same time while doing good, which is wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit more about your mission and what you really hope to accomplish?
I really want to encourage everyone to kind of embrace that journey of mental strength. We talk about mental strength being an attribute that we respect in people, but we have nowhere that we're teaching it. And I feel like most people that are identified as being mentally strong are really just pushing through. And in creating the Mentally Strong method, it's like we really need to have insight into ourselves to produce that true, genuine confidence. And that's what I believe the Mentally Strong is that you truly know yourself, your surroundings, and that we're helping other people and just turning that all into what mentally strong means.
It's really challenging to be mentally strong, as you say, particularly when you've been through so much, and I know I've been through a lot too. Can you tell us more about your method and how it really helps people?
Yeah. So I was in the midst for a solid 10 years of like this enormous stress. So it happened from the time Johnny died in the drowning accident. I had just adopted 5 children in the previous year. 2 of those were his biological sisters. And so they began to exhibit all of their PTSD and reactive attachment disorder kind of symptoms. So severe rebellion in their early teen years, started at 13, 14 years old. And we were constantly, picking them up after running away, and in the police and hospitalizations and programs and therapy, and trying to help these girls. At the same time, my son was diagnosed with this neurodegenerative condition that I found out my husband and daughter also had, right? So all of this stuff was going on at the same time. And I'm a trained psychiatric nurse practitioner. I'm a proponent of cognitive behavioral therapy. I truly believe that that works. But then I had to apply it to my life. In applying positive psychology, we talk about, oh, just think positive and your life will be great. Not, when you're going through all of that you have no actual control over, you have to learn to put those things into real practice. And so when I started creating the Mentally Strong method, it wasn't because I was going to share it with people. It was doing cognitive behavioral therapy on myself. And then, it just kind of developed into this very clear formula where, I'm I'm thinking, I'm organizing, I'm choosing. And then, when you lose a child, you just like stop and like, what am I doing with my life? What is important? What is really important to me? And that's when I knew that I had to share the Mentally Strong Method.
That is, really an amazing story. And I'm so sorry about your loss. As you know, I've lost my husband, but I think just losing two children and dealing with all you have, it's just incredible all you've been through, and that you're still plugging along and you're still helping other people. So
Yeah.
kudos to you. Like, my heart goes out to you in the work that you're doing. And you've recently put together a parenting course. And many of the people that watch this show, the entrepreneurs out there, are also parents. Can you tell us more about that parenting course and how you help parents out there?
Yeah, so what I did is we took the Mentally Strong Method and we created a children's version of it. And so you learn the Mentally Strong Method, how to use that with your children, right? I talked about, actually we have to teach these things of how to be mentally strong, how to think, organize, choose. And, but then I also took all of the research, years of theoretical study of all different kinds of theorists, and put it into what I call the growth wheel. And, we all start with our little genetic makeup and what we're predisposed to, and, those kinds of things. But our environment, the way that we grow, influences how that manifests our personality and who we are. And so in this growth wheel, it's like, what do we do in those infant and toddler stages to make sure that our child, has strong communication skills and can understand and control their emotions. And so we go step by step in this, growth wheel of, okay, you have your genetics, and now we're going to make sure that we provide a safe and loving environment for our children. Then what do we do in those early childhood years? I have 8 wedges in the wheel, and we break those down and we give you all of this theoretical study from decades of other people's work, right? But we put it into this nice little growth wheel for a parent to say, oh, I need to maybe work on my communication, or work on my child's emotional development in this area. And sometimes you have to self-reflect and say, well, I didn't have that as a child. I was never taught how to appropriately and respectfully communicate my needs, right? That balance between advocating for yourself and being disrespectful to your parent, right? And so we kind of go through this whole thing of, how do we empower our children, but don't give them all the power in the world, right? So there's so much knowledge. So this is my life experience with all of the theoretical research in this course that we're now offering for $99.
Awesome.
It's worth way more than that. But we really just want to get it out there and allow people to start teaching their children to be mentally strong at whatever age they are.
It definitely is very challenging to be a parent. Something they don't tell you when you're dreaming about that little baby sleeping away. Speaking of, being a parent, you mentioned a few, but what were some of the big challenges you felt like you encountered when you were a parent?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was my pride. Honestly, I thought, oh, I'm an educated woman. I know about psychiatry and psychology, and I would always read parenting books, and you really have no clue until you're going through it, and you're going through it and you finish it. And then now you're trying to help your grandkids, right? It's like, it's really one of those things that you can only experience. You can't really learn. And, we spend a lot of time with that in the course, because it's like, we want you to be involved in a community of other parents that are, wanting to raise mentally strong kids and be active and involved, but still have their life. I have always worked. Even before I was an entrepreneur, I worked full time. And I believe that I still gave 100% to my kids.
It's a balancing act, doing both of those things and being an entrepreneur and trying to balance the many things that you're doing as a parent. What's some advice you would give to the entrepreneurs out there about how they can communicate with their children, that their work, of course, is very important, but the children are important too. How can they message that for their kids to understand?
I think one of our biggest flaws as a parent is not giving ourselves grace. We are, giving yourself grace for all that you are doing, reminding your child all that you are doing. There's this balance between, we say, oh, they're spoiled, they're getting everything that they want, and they're still not happy. Where is the disconnect there? And kind of figuring out every child is different. You could have children growing up in the same home and they swear, one person swears their mother loves them to death and the other one swears their mother doesn't love them, and it's really about trying to connect individually with your children. I like to think of it as like these children are a gift on loan to you to love and to nurture, but they're individuals. They're going to be their own person. They have their own personality. And I think I made a lot of mistakes with this because I read a lot of like behavioral parenting books when my kids were young. And if you just punish them and you just do these things, your children will do what you want.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time not treating them as individuals. And so I'm, working on my relationship. All my children are adults now, but I'm working on that relationship as an adult and even saying, I know I didn't, respect you in this area, and just really trying to embrace who they are as adults now. And so that's one of the things that I talk about a lot. It's that relationship is a priority. If you have a relationship with your child, it doesn't matter what mistakes you make, doesn't matter if you work 80 hours a week, they will forgive you. You will always have a relationship with them. It's when we are struggling with the relationship piece that everything else begins to have trouble. But the biggest thing that I tell parents is grace for yourself.
Definitely. We are so hard on ourselves as entrepreneurs, as parents, just overall. And the point about treating your kids as individuals, I know that because my kids are like night and day. They're so different. And I've had to treat them differently, and they've called me out on it. Other people have called me out on it, but that both of them respond to different things. So that's what you have to do as a parent. So It's great that you're offering this assistance. So many parents, particularly lately, we have so many entrepreneurs and working professionals working from home. They have children who are interrupting them during the day in their home office. What ideas do you have to help them thwart that in a way that's nice and respectful to their children?
Yeah, that's a hard one. And, jokingly, I tell my friends who have young children, I thank God that in this pandemic, I didn't have young children, right?
Hard,
because it is a new level of stress, and the expectation to be able to be professional and work and be on Zoom calls while your children are in the other room, working on their schoolwork. It's like, if mom's in the house, mom is needed. I mean, it's just.
There's so many times that I've sat there and going like this, I'm on camera, move.
Right. I think again, going back to that grace for ourselves, stop the all or nothing. I think we get into this, well, we can't do it perfect, so forget it. I think a lot of people have quit their jobs or stepped back because of this, or or made really hard decisions in this time. And now we're, the country's opening back up. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that we are going to go into this very major mental health crisis because it's, what do we do? How do we go back to normal? And those kinds of things. So I think, again, just grace for ourselves, and each individual kid is different. And so just realistic expectations, doing as much as you can to try to organize. And this is where the mentally strong method comes in. It's like, we're teaching you think, organize, choose, right? Think through this process, organize it. What is realistic? What can you do? Can you put together a schedule for the kids? Can you, what actually works for your family? One of the things that's really frustrating for me about a lot of parenting books is it's very black and white. If you do this, this, and this, your child will respond. And that might have worked for the author. But, it didn't work for my 7 kids, right? Like everybody responded differently and not always very nicely, right? So, not that you don't read those books, but take them with a grain of salt. Like that's what worked for that family. What in there can you incorporate and will it work for you?
I totally agree, because as a single mom, that's what saved me and gotten through all these years, is organizing my time, trying to find that balance, shifting things, as my schedule will allow, just to make sure I'm everywhere I need to be and doing everything well. And then forgiving myself when I can't do everything and letting myself off the hook. If you were going to throw out some just general parenting tips to the crowd, what would they be?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, and I know I've said this twice already, but relationship. Regardless of what you think the problem is with your child right now, work on the relationship. That problem may work itself out. Maybe you need to try to organize and think, but just relationship is a priority. And this empower versus power, like, as a parent, we're taught that you need to be in control of your children. They need to obey you, especially in some cultures. Like it's, you're looked at like you're a horrible parent if your child is misbehaving. Yeah. And and then you feel like
I had one of those.
Yeah. But why are they misbehaving? What is it about them? What are they trying to communicate? But what I see a lot of times in my practice is the opposite happens. So if a person was raised in a very strict home and they rebelled against their parent, they are working on their relationship with their child, but they let their child do whatever they want. Yeah. So I've got 11, 12-year-olds that their parents are letting them be sexually active, and I'm like, well, there's a balance. And in the course, I talk about it like tug of war, right? Because this is how I experienced it with my children. I'm pulling, they're pulling, and sometimes I'm winning, sometimes they're losing, and we're going back and forth. But one of the therapists that helped me develop the course, she said, think of it like a dance. It's like this, so it doesn't have to be a tug of war. It was a tug of war for me.
Yes, it's some kind of dance out there, hip hop or ballet or something.
But it could be a dance where you're working together, and sometimes you're giving in and sometimes you're not. And, really finding that balance in your relationship with your child, and not just letting them do whatever. Like there is a reason we have parents to nurture us and to grow and those kinds of things. So.
Definitely, it is finding that balance. And someone told me early on, just choose your battles. And I've always thought about that, because I can't battle everything. I have 2 really strong-minded girls, which is great, but we are
going to be great entrepreneurs.
They will be. I'm pushing it on them. You talked a little bit about community support and why that's important for parents. And I also think it's really important for entrepreneurs. Can you elaborate a little more there?
And I think this is a really hard time because we have been isolated. A couple of years ago, almost everybody had kind of, groups or, play dates that they went on with their kids, or, sporting events, and they kind of naturally found some of that community. And then that was all taken away, and it's coming back slowly, but it's hard when you've been out of it for a while and everyone's been doing kind of different things to reconnect with people or connect with new people when you've had to kind of be alone for so long. And so my challenge is for some people, this is easy. I easily connect with people. But for some people, this is very difficult. And this is going to be a very difficult time. If it took you years to develop your little friend group that's now all broken up because of, life over the last year and a half, it might be very difficult for some of you to like get out there and find those connections. But we're human beings. We all need that connection. Always encourage people. You need some face-to-face support. We all need friends and family. And for some of us, it's easier. For some of us, it's harder just because of personality or because of life circumstances. And but if you could just find that one or two, people that you can, really lean on during these times.
So critical, so critical. And you
Yeah.
talked about, the mental health struggles many people have had during the pandemic, and you also alluded to the fact that you think it will continue to rise as we come out. Can you talk a little bit more about why that is?
So, and actually here in Colorado, the Children's Hospital just publicly asked the governor to declare a mental health state of emergency. We have a 30 to 40% rise in mental health admissions to the emergency room. So this is people who feel like they're done, they're overwhelmed. And when they say they're done, it usually means they want to kill themselves. And so that is a huge problem. We don't have enough beds. Our mental health system is broken, unfortunately. We always say, well, they can get a bed in the hospital, but maybe for 3 days. And the reality is, that's not going to be fixed in 3 days, and we need kind of this wraparound support as we come out of this pandemic, and people are still afraid. So, the government is saying, oh no, now you can go out. But we also know less than 50% of people are actually vaccinated, right? And so are we really safe? You say we're safe, but are we safe? And so there's a lot of confusion. I don't, should I let my kids get back into sports? Should I not? Everybody has a different opinion on what safe is. And so even people that you used to be close with and connect with, maybe they have a different opinion on what safe is. And so you're afraid to hang out with them. There's just so much fear around coming out of this pandemic, that fear creates anxiety, and not dealt with will lead to depression. And we didn't have enough practitioners before the pandemic. We're not going to have enough. I mean, before the pandemic, the statistics were 26% of Americans met criteria for a mental illness. Only 12% were actually seeking treatment. Wow. So just imagine if that's gone up even a tiny bit, and all 30% of those people try to access care, they won't get it. Our system will be overrun.
Thank you so much for all of that wisdom and inspiration around mental health issues. And we would encourage anyone to seek out courses and get professional therapy too if you need it. I know Cristi can direct you to a lot of different resources there where people can reach out and assist you. So you also wrote a book too, switching gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about your book and what the readers can find out?
My personal book is my story, and it starts with my marriage and ends with Reggie's death. But it was really my journey of grief. So I started the book a couple weeks after Reggie died, and I talk a lot about controlled grief in the Mentally Strong method of, when you have grief, you have to take the time to actually grieve. And so the writing of this book was my grief process. And it was very important to me to share our story. We often say that our story could be a Tyler Perry movie. I don't know if you know Tyler Perry, but he always does like these real live hardships of people overcoming, but they're real.
And what a great journey. And hopefully they will turn it into a movie. I am rooting for that to happen. Let's put it out into the world.
Yes.
So I am going to switch it up a little bit. Let's play this little game. It's called If You Tell Me Yours, I'll Tell You Mine. So I will ask you a few questions.
Okay.
So if you had to recommend a Netflix series to binge, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. I'm not a real
or anything.
Probably like one of my favorites is I'm losing the name of it, with Sheldon and the scientists.
I didn't see that one.
Next question. I've already lost it. What is your binge?
Lately I've been watching the show Manifest. It's about this plane that takes off, and when it lands, it's 5 years later, and that's been just so cool to watch. So if you want to watch something interesting and kind of lively and it keeps changing, that's a good one. Where do you want to travel to next?
So
Yeah.
my favorite place in the world is Jamaica.
Oh, nice.
Because I love where the mountains meet the ocean. So I also love San Diego, mountains meeting ocean.
I like San Diego.
I've been to both of those places several times, but I want to go to Greece where the mountains are meeting the ocean. I've never been there, so that's definitely on my bucket list.
You stole my answer. It was Greece too. So let's go together. Let's plan
Greece,
that
yes.
trip. If you have like a go-to that you eat for lunch when you're running out of time, what is it?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh no.
Yeah.
You work too
Unfortunately,
much?
I'm eating way too much lunch these days. We have drug reps bringing us junk all the time. I'm eating way too much. I will go through like Applebee's and, grab a salmon salad when I'm being good. When I'm being bad, I'm real bad, and I just go to Dairy Queen.
Oh my goodness. Well, good for you.
All or nothing,
Extremes. I'm a little less glamorous. Yeah, I'm definitely less glamorous around here, like, because I work from home. So if I'm like desperate for something, I'll go make myself a PB&J.
That's always an easy one, and it gets
Not
the carbs going, the sweets. Yeah,
right. Not very gourmet, but it definitely does the trick. Who would you say is your favorite childhood teacher, if you can remember?
I didn't like my childhood
Oh,
teachers. I talk about this in some other interviews and in the Mentally Strong method of, when I was a kid, I didn't think I was smart. And I really struggled in school. And I realize now, I mean, obviously I'm very smart. I'm successful. What was holding me back at that time. And I really think it was this, the way that academics is judged is based on being able to pay attention and sit still and do very focused attention work. And I never was very good at that. And so I didn't do well in school at all until I got to college.
and you turned it around.
Yeah.
Look at you. I used to like school when I was little, but see, I was probably a much more boring kid who just sat there. And I had one teacher, Mrs. Durkee. She actually encouraged me to write and helped me with sort of publishing a book when I was really young. And I think that sort of set me up along the way. So we have good and bad educators out there, and hopefully,
yeah, that's amazing.
Inspiring people. Who inspires you, speaking of?
I think, when I think of that, I think of people like Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, who have come from nothing and made billions, and they help people, and they tell a story, and they're comfortable in their story. And that's what I want to be able to do. I mean, there are tons of people like that are not necessarily famous, but just that person that has overcome.
Awesome. I am also inspired by Oprah. Love her. Just think she's amazing. I remember coming home after school. This is how old I am, and watching her on TV.
4:00 Eastern Standard Time.
That was just really cool to watch her and just see how she's grown from there. I'm also really inspired by my kids and this younger generation, just how they think and how they stand up for other people, and they're so strong and so confident. So a lot of good things happening in the world. Thank you so much for playing, Cristi. And we're coming to the end of the show here. Where can our audience find out more about you?
So everything is on the website, mentallystrong.com, but click on the Dr. B link so that you can follow us on all the socials. I put out a video on YouTube once a week, really trying to empower people in this mentally strong journey.
That is so amazing. So everyone, please check it out. And until then, we will see you next time on Launch.